Hello and welcome to Titans of Gaia. Firstly, I want to say this image you see here inspired me so much that it became a main influence for this project. I think it's so beautiful. I remember looking on Google in 2017 and I saw these photos of Madame Sherri's forest ancient ruins. Although mine isn't an exact replica of it, you can see the influence there for sure. So this is part 4 in a series of the Huntress versus Werewolves. In this video you'll see me make the diorama, which consists of 3 parts: the staircase, the tree and the base, and you'll see it all come together nicely with all the previous sculptures attached to this. So I use foam board, also known as foam core in the USA. It's really lovely stuff. It's polystyrene sandwiched in between paper when using PVA glue, also known as wood glue. Dries unusually fast. It took me a while to cut all these pieces, but I wasn't completely precise. I'd done rough measurements. I cut all these pieces out and I stuck them together in a certain way to make it look like a spiral staircase. And then I built it up using a glue gun to make it look more like a staircase. And that was the main structure. And it looked quite messy, at the time. But that's when I used more wood glue to cover it. And then I used Das air drying clay, which I pasted onto the entire structure and then created details with my tools. I really dislike this clay very much because it dries very quickly on the surface and it stays mushy on the inside. But it has its uses, it really does. It's really good for making bases, so I've used it for a few projects now for that very reason. But I'm still not very comfortable with it, because it's just messy stuff, It's just really messy and it takes ages to dry properly. The fact that it cracks on a surface can be a bad thing, but it can also be a good thing because it cracks. It's notorious for cracking, and nearly every artist I know who's ever used it has said it drives them mad because it cracks. The secret is to use a spray bottle of water and you just spray it now and again. If you dip your finger in water and put it on the clay, it just turns into a slippery mess. But a fine spray bottle, not like a bottle that sprays big droplets, but one that has a fine mist, that does the job. The good thing about it cracking easily and quite quickly, let's say you use a hairdryer or a heat gun, it will definitely crack straight away and it will stay mushy on the inside, and that's a good thing if you want to make it look like it's a textured surface. So that's exactly what I did. It made it look like a naturally cracked surface and it made it look like rock-like texture. Do that after I've actually made the rock surface, the brick-like surface, to make it look like these pieces of rock have been placed on top of each other. So do all that first. I find that it sticks better with PVA glue, makes the clay stronger as well. That's why I brush it on afterwards as well. This was during a summer 2024 that I did this, so it was very warm. So now I'm making the ancient tree. Now here I'm using scrap bits of wood. People just usually just throw a piece of wood away, but to me, I need this. So I've got a box full of just junk bits of wood. You know, if people saw this box, they'd just think I'm mad, but it's very useful indeed. So I do love model making so much, using different materials. In this case, I'm using bits of wood, and a lot of them are actually cut off at a 45-degree angle. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And that makes it easier for me to make a curved shape. So as you can see, I stick them on at certain positions and then layer them on top of each other. I keep doing this until I'm happy with the shape, and I use loads of hot glue sticks. And the good thing about using a glue gun is that the glue actually sets pretty much straight away. So those pieces of wood that weren't cut off at 45-degree angles, they were like random shapes, and these random shapes made the model look a lot more interesting, and I hope you can see that there. Since I glued all these pieces of wood together, there are plenty of gaps, so I used really soft aluminium wire. The great thing about using such soft wire is that it's easy to manipulate. So it's very friendly on your hands. It's very handy for us model makers as well, and sculptors. It's very popular amongst sculptors. And just a side note here, over here we say aluminium. In the USA you say aluminum. So when you hear me say aluminium, you know what I'm talking about. So I make the shape with a wire, I then find a gap and then stuff the wire into it. It doesn't sound very clever, but that's all I do really. I keep messing about with the wire until I'm happy with the shape, and I add more wire, so I'm creating more branches and more detail, I suppose. And this is going to be a very twisty, gnarly looking tree, so the more detail the better. So as you know, I've got chronic pain and fatigue, and this affects my right hand mostly. So using pliers, it's not very easy, but it's not too bad with using aluminium wire because it's soft, so that helps a lot. Another reason for me telling you this is that for those who struggle with their hands, aluminium wire is definitely the way to go if you want to do something creative. So that's something for you to think about for sure. I bought a huge catering foil years ago. I've bought them twice now, and it's so big and fat that it lasts for years, and it's thick foil because I use it for model making and sculpture all the time. For this purpose, you can see what I'm trying to do, and it covers all the gaps and all the hard surface areas, and it gives it textured surface. Also, I use it for the clay to grip to it, so it's easier to sculpt. Now I'm using my least favourite clay again, a dust clay. You must think I'm weird because I mention frequently that I don't like this clay, but I still use it. It's really great for organic stuff, and this tree is very organic, and for this project it's been amazing. This was a really hot summer, and I was working in my shed, and the fan was blowing very warm air on me, and while I was putting the clay on, it was actually drying while I was putting it on. But that added the effect that I wanted, actually, the effect that I was after, the cracked, gnarly, old bark looking texture that I was after. And I actually forgot to bring my sculpting tools, so I used this plastic spoon as a tool to make the texture, which ironically did a really good job. And also you can see me using scrunched up tin foil, which creates the texture. So tin foil has so many uses. You'll see on the surface there's like a light grey tone, and in the recesses there's a dark grey tone. So the dark grey tone is where the clay is moist and mushy, and the light grey is where it's drying, and that's how warm it was in the shed. While I was sculpting, the humid weather and the nature of dust clay cracking, it served me really well on this project. So I thought I'd use a hairdryer, which was even hotter in the shed. I was using this to speed up the cracking and create more texture, and it was doing such a nice job. It's tiring using my hands, but you know, I just did it a few minutes at a time. That's all I could do. It's frustrating this way, but it's the only way I can do it. Whenever I use dust clay, and that glue I'm using is very gloopy. It's called Yoo-hoo, which is spelled U-H-U glue. It's great stuff. It's very messy. The reason I used it is because I wanted it to look like giant cobwebs hanging from the branches, which I thought was very effective. So now the important part comes when I drill it to the base, screw it in, and then blend all the elements in using DAS clay and loads of PVA glue. I drew outlines on the base so I can position the tree and the staircase in certain ways. So I wanted to make a composition because I wanted it in a certain way so the camera can move around and see the staircase and the tree and the werewolves and the huntress. This model, this whole diorama has been in my mind for so long, and I wanted it to be a carousel display. That's the only way it can be viewed. It's a little bit frustrating having just still photography of a sculpture because sculptures are meant to be viewed from all different angles, you see. So the good thing about YouTube is that it gives all of you the chance to see all of it from every angle. It was so satisfying seeing it all come together, blending it all in, creating the roots and making the ground look like there's just roots everywhere, and also the roots climbing onto the staircase as well. And what I always had in mind was having the branches look like a huge hand, like a clawed hand actually, over the huntress and the werewolves. I do the final touches using a Dremel, using various bits. I used a wood chisel bit, which is a really sharp blade-like bit, and it carves surfaces like butter. It's great. So we're coming towards the end of this video now, and you'll see the whole thing finished. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to catch you again soon. Take care and stay awesome.